discussing about HIPAA, because even in the last sessions, even I was explained this. HIPAA nothing but in full form called Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So this is one of the major act, especially in healthcare. Here, where health information of the particular individuals will be protected. This is what generally HIPAA stands for. So HIPAA is a kind of law which will be used to protect the health information of the individuals, not only health information, at the same time administrative activities, what people were performing, followed by the systems what they use. Everything comes under HIPAA, because HIPAA is a law, is a compliance, where the requirements for HIPAA compliance will be like this. Means if you want to talk about the compliance standards, because there are some standards, procedures and regulations, because there will be a regulatory board. I hope you know, right? So especially finance, at the same time healthcare, everywhere there is a regulatory board. Normally this regulatory board will be governed by the organization. Government will govern this. Means that comes under the government entity, because they made some rules and regulations, do's and don'ts, right? How to follow, right? How to behave, how to act. How to behave means what promises should be given, because there should not be any kind of false promise should be given to the customers. That's what generally the rule says on a high level note. At the same time, it discusses about the remaining things, how to use the services, either it is a finance, health insurance, financial services, whatever it is. So there are some rules and regulations. There are some compliances standards which normally uh, any regulatory board will follow. So HIPAA is also something near or the same, right? So this is also considered one of the regulatory board, but this regulatory board is confined major to health insurance. Okay, that's only the difference, health related thing. Now the requirements of HIPAA compliance will be as follows. The first one is that we need to perform self audits, because HIPAA has a procedure of performing self audits in the organizations, because healthcare units will be there, at the same time insurance organizations will be there. So these people will perform their business activities. To what extent they are managing all the HIPAA rules and regulations is what they have to see, because even governments also do self audits. If you take banks, right? So banks, if you take any financial institutions and bank, there will be two different audits. One is internal audit, second is external audits. Internal audit means internal auditors will do that. External audit means external people from outside will come, from the government, this thing and all, and they perform the audit and they see, right? So is there any deviations happened here, or any violations, right? All this comes under the category. So this is what generally performing self audits, right? So HIPAA will follow self audit so that they make sure whatever the rules and regulations, procedures and all, everything will be followed by the people who are using it, right? This is what generally self audit stands for. Second, HIPAA also follow documentation, because there is a documentation which normally all the organization has to follow. So documentation is also important, because based upon the documentation, do's and don'ts, self audits will be there, documentation will be there, wherein when we talk about documentation and all, there will be a documentation of HIPAA will be there here. The documentation standards everybody has to follow. Means whatever the documentation the HIPAA has, the documentation will be updated from time to time even, right? So because depends on the changes happens, especially in terms of the government decisions, because these will be implemented by the government authority, right? Government board will implement these. So when there is an implementation comes into existence, there are some rules and regulations will be applicable. So these rules and regulations may vary, depends on the decision what government will take, right? So based upon the changes in the government, these things will be changed accordingly, right? So there will be a proper documentation for everything. Even these regulatory boards and all everything will also have the set of rules and regulations. They have some set of documentation will be prepared. So that is also comes under the compliance requirements. So there is a documentation. So for every procedure, for every decision, there are some standards has to follow. For example, whatever the treatment in healthcare organization has given to the patient and how they have given, right? So what steps to be followed, not in terms of the medical treatment. I'm talking about the procedure and an external what I'm talking about from an administrative perspective, right? So all these things has to be documented by the organizations. At the same time, if an insurance company is mainly towards uh, insurance company is mainly towards insurance claims, all that. So if there is any claim acceptance and rejections, everything will be falls under a proper set of acceptance as well as denials and all everything should be under the documentation even. Because for example, any organization, any insurance company, if anybody wants to accept the claims or if they wants to reject the claims of what they have received and all, so there must be a proper documentation for that. There must be a proper confirmation should be given in written, right? So on these grounds we have accepted, on these grounds we have rejected, right? So on these grounds we have deferred this. So for every decision and all, there will be some standard this thing, right? So this is on these basis we have accepted, on this basis we have rejected, all that stuff. So everything has to be documented. This is also essentially important in reference to the HIPAA process itself is concerned, right? So this is the second point under compliance requirements here. Next, the third point is that we need to have a business association management. So business association management will also be there, where this business association management will coordinate the activities which is performing by these healthcare authorities. This is what generally coordination management will be useful. So this coordination management make sure whatever the procedures people were following, whatever the standards people were following and all that, there must be a proper coordination among these people. This is what we call it as business association management will be there. So there will be some set of people who will be recruited exclusively to manage all this. So for that, generally there will be in business association management, which is something which is something is a part of these requirements, HIPAA, all that, right? In reference to the compliances and all everything. So this is also one of the things, right? So business association management will also be there in this. So apart from business association management, there will be an incident management as well, because incident management is also required, because you can see incident management even in applications also. For example, uh, everywhere it is applicable. For example, we are developing an application, right? So when you are developing an application, there are some couple of incidents happens, like whatever the queries, right? So whatever the resolutions we have made, right? So is there any kind of delays, right? So all these informations will be updated from time to time. This will be updated in a format. There is a tool called incident management tool. Even in IT also it will be there. I'll show you when I am showing Jira. Of course, we don't work on incident management, but I'll show you. So because there are different tickets will be raised by the people, and whatever the incidents happens, because there will be some incidents or there will be some situations where some queries and all everything will be resolved immediately, and some queries will be taken time for delay, right? So delay of time will also be happens. So this is all comes under incident management and all. So the same way, when there is an activity of something going on in reference to the healthcare, health insurance and all everything, there are lot of couple of queries, couple of incidents will be taken place, which has to be managed by the people who are governing and organizing all that. So this is where generally incident management comes into picture. So incident management will also comes under HIPAA, because they are the governing body, they are the governing one to manage all the health related informations and all. So this how this incident management procedure and how the incident management process to be taken care of, and how this instance to be uh, coordinated and controlled, everything will be taken care of by the HIPAA. So this is also one of the requirement comes under HIPAA as a part of compliance, all that, right? So next, after incident management, the next thing is that remediation plans and all everything, right? So remediation plans should also be there. So whereas when we talk about remediation plans and all that, so there must be a proper place of remediation which is essentially required, because there must be a central repository system which has to be controlled all this. That's the reason why whatever the rules and regulations we frame, whatever the policies, procedures and all everything are we following is completely comes under that category. So this is what generally the remediation plans in a place. In a place means on a particular it's a central repository. I can say like individual or a group of people will coordinate all that. So that's what comes under remediation plan, all that. At the same time, developing and implementing policies and procedures is also essentially important in reference to the HIPAA, because this I have explained couple of times even last time. Right. So when there is a procedure we follow, usually for that procedure there will be some plans. So there are some plans, procedures, and all everything will be there. Not only HIPAA, any procedure and policies we plan, usually there will be a there are some documentation we prepare in reference to the plans, procedures, all that. So this HIPAA is no way exempted to that. Right? HIPAA will also have some plans, policies, procedures, all that. So they'll have their own plans, they'll have their own policies, procedures, all these things will be there, which normally has to be taken care of by the people who are governing all these, right? So this HIPAA policies and procedures and all everything will be there in it. So they'll also be managed all these things, but these plans or these procedures, whatever they are following, may vary sometimes. Sometimes there is a possibility. Sometimes we may have some difference of. Uh, I don't say difference of opinion. There are some changes happen sometimes. Depends on the decisions what they have taken. At the same time, importances, because sometimes if you see, due to different health related medical related situations and all, importance by the government will be given more to them, right? Sometimes it happens, especially if you take the kind of situation we have faced earlier in COVID, right? So in COVID, where there is a situation we have faced, due to the situation there are a lot of issues were arised, right? So medical related issues were arised due to COVID. So because of that, what was happened due to this COVID situation, most of the people suffered a lot. Due to that, there are some changes has been made by the government that whatever the COVID treatment related treatment must be accepted by all the healthcare organizations. This is what which is imposed on a emergency basis. So importance as well as the budget, even budget allocation, because every year whatever the budget was proposed by the government, so there is some set of amount will be allocated for every department, right? So every area, right? Healthcare, education, right? So at the same time for the other things like, right? So different areas they will be allocating some budget. So that time, even whatever the policies and procedures are we talking about, it will be influenced because of that event. Because based upon the interest, based upon the additional investment they are making onto the existing one, whatever the changes happens and all everything will also becomes under this category, right? So these policies and procedures may also be changed from time to time based upon the decisions what government will be taken. So this is also comes under HIPAA compliance, HIPAA compliance, all that stuff, right? So whatever the rules and regulations they were taking, everything comes under that category. Next, necessary treatment has to be, necessary training has to be given to the people, because this training will be for two different things: people who are managing this HIPAA, people who are following. because there are two set of people you can see everywhere. Every regulatory board will have two people. One is managing people, second is users. People who are managing this and people who are using this. So managing this means HIPAA people, right? So HIPAA team, authority team, which will be their regulatory board. So those people will be called as managing people, right? They are the one who is going to manage all the rules and regulations, all that. This is what generally HIPAA management people were. Next, HIPAA users means nothing but hospitals, healthcare organizations, insurance companies. All these things comes under the user perspective. So there must be some necessary training will be given when and wherever it is needed for both the people, even for people who are managing this, because sometimes even people who are managing may not have a complete understanding about the new things, because existing things they'll have an idea, but new things they may not have an idea, right? So because for example, if there is any kind of changes happens due to the conditions which I have told you some time back, so there are some specific training has to be given to the people due to the amendments whatever happened in the existing procedures, all that. So this is for maintaining people, because in order to maintain these effectively, or in order to make them to use this effectiveness throughout this thing and all, so maintaining, whoever is maintaining these HIPAA rules and regulations, we need to provide necessary training to them, is the first thing. Second thing, that users will also be required to train themselves, because they are the one who are going to use, and whatever the amendments happens and all, that has to be understood by them. So they have to inculcate the changes, whatever the changes happens and all. So those changes has to be inculcated by the users for sure. So user training, whenever it is needed, whenever it is required and all, user training should also be given. So necessary training when there is a regulatory board will be there, when there is a regulatory standards and procedures are we following. There are some necessary training has to be given to the people, even people who are following the procedures, people who are managing the procedures, or people who are using these things and all. Everybody we have to see, right? So we have to make sure that everybody has to follow the same rules and regulations, the process, policies and procedures. So in order to make it so effective, there should be a necessary training should be given to all the people well in advance. So this is all about the HIPAA regulatories and all, right? So regulatory standards, regulatory requirements and all, everything comes under this category. So if being a business analyst team, when we are discussing about this, so here is a question. You could ask me one thing, Raj, in what way being a business analyst I am relating to this, right? On what grounds being a business analyst I am connecting to this, or I am relating to this? Because being a business analyst, what is that we have to understood here is, business analysts are the people who are managing the procedures. Business analysts are the people who are managing the procedures. Business analysts are the people who are framing these documentations, because whatever the necessary changes has been made in the requirements, and how these requirements will be implemented or reflected on the systems what they use, because there are different claim processings and claim adjudication systems will be used by the organizations. So these claim processing and claim adjudication systems has to be managed by these people for sure. So there is some set of documentation which has to be prepared. So there are some set of documentation has to be prepared by these people, and they have to follow the documentation standards as well. At the same time, whatever the HIPAA changes has been made into the existing procedures and all, everything that must be reflected in the claim systems as well, because last time also I have told you there are different claim systems we use, like facets, right? So facets is one kind of claim management system. At the same time, not only facets, there will be another application called QNext. So facets, QNext, these are the claim applications which will be used by the organizations to manage the claims, to process the claims and all everything. These kind of applications they will be using. So whatever the changes has been made due to the changes we have made in the policies and procedures, that should be that must be reflected on the systems what they are using. Otherwise, what will happen? Whatever the rules and regulations they have made and whatever the policies and procedures in reference to the documentation what we have, will have some difference. So being a business analyst, it is essentially important for us to manage these things. So on that grounds, being a BA, knowing about these HIPAA compliances and all everything, or knowing about the HIPAA rules and regulations is essentially important for any business analyst to perform with, because we are the one who has to propose the necessary changes and all everything to the existing ones. So this is how generally the requirements for HIPAA compliance, being a business analyst, one must be best to know it, right? So this is what about requirements for compliance is all about. Now when you talk about compliance and all, these are the things which are there in the compliance. These are the checklist. This is a checklist will be there in the compliance. Whatever the requirements we have discussed so far, in addition to this, I'm talking about this. These are the HIPAA compliance checklist will be there. One is about technical protections. Whatever the technical protections like encryptions, right? All that, whatever I have explained some time back, right? So all these things comes and whatever the technical protection means, whatever the technology we are using and how we are going to protect this technology, this is also falls under compliance checklist. Point number one. Second, physical protections. Physical protection means the kind of access you are going to give to the people, because for example someone wants to use the system, right? Someone wants to access the server, right? So what kind of procedure there, because biometric system or iris or fingerprints or the biometric card, all these things comes under, right? So physical protection, how are we protecting the infrastructure or the systems with external entities like physical people means people, right? So how are we managing our systems, how are we managing our workstations? This is also comes under HIPAA compliance. Next, administrative protections. Administrative protections means that's what, right? So how do we manage all this, right? So how to prepare some documentation for the incidents, whatever we have prepared. At the same time, providing necessary training to them, training the staff, all that stuff. At the same time, blocking unauthorized access, because this is where physical protection comes into existence. Because only limited people will be given an issue, will be given an access to use the application, not by anyone. So there must be some system which has to be implemented in a stage of blocking unauthorized access and all everything. So should also be taking into an account here. At the same time, assessing and managing risk in an administrative related stuff. All these things comes under the administrative things. So technical protection comes under HIPAA, physical protections comes under HIPAA, administrative protections comes under HIPAA, and next HIPAA privacy rules to do, right? So what are the things to be taken care of and what rules, do's and don'ts, I can say, right? So do's and don'ts in that context. What are the privacy rules to be followed when we are working on the HIPAA rules and regulations and processes and all everything comes under HIPAA compliance. At the same time, breach notification, right? So if there is anybody has violated the rules and regulations, there is a concept of breach come into existence. That breach notifications to do rules will also be comes under, because if there is any rule, automatically if there is any violation of rule, what are the actions to be taken and all will be updated, right? And any regulatory standards and regulatory procedures that will be applicable, then only people will be under control and people will falls under all the things. Otherwise people doesn't have any care on it. So there is a breach. If there is any breach happens, so what kind of actions we are going to take and all everything should also be mentioned in that, right? So this is all comes under breach part. Next, at the same time, HIPAA omnibus rules to do. So this is also part of HIPAA compliance, all that. So these are the HIPAA compliances being a what we called being a business analyst, one must be knowing, right? So because HIPAA compliance requirements should be known to us well in advance. At the same time, these are the checklist of HIPAA, which being a BA, you must be good and familiar with.